Good morning, everybody. I hope that you are well. Just waiting on a couple more people to join us, but I thought I'll get started anyway. So welcome to this morning's webinar, a bit of a spotlight webinar about sort of identifying gaps, curriculum planning for the phased return of schools. So you may have seen sort of the recent government guidance that was released. Basically a bit of a summary about sort of the phased return of schools and talking about the huge challenge that we might have in terms of replanning the curriculum, and then there's obviously the added issue of aligning what is being learned at home with what is being taught at school. The problem we as teachers are facing is that the learning our students have lost as a result of the pandemic. And taken from the gov.uk website, how can a child catch up on 6 months of missed learning? So sort of up to 6 months, depending on how long the schools have been closed. Obviously, we're all different in terms of our schools. Now, this was taken from that sort of government guidance in terms of supporting staff with curriculum planning. And that is why we decided to do this webinar, just to kind of give you a bit of an insight on how EducationCity can help you. So the agenda, we're going to be looking at grouping in terms of the bubbles of returning children in possible mixed classes with those differentiated gaps as highlighted in that government document. Also, the My Cities and allocation. So they've said that the planning foundational skills might be left to teams of planners. So they'll be able to do that and share those sort of plans amongst different staff members to then edit and adapt for their classes. We're then going to look at the resources we've got to provide access for opportunities for practice and instructional videos. Again, you may have know of these areas, you may have used these areas already, but these are the areas that were outlined in that document, and so I want to make sure that you know we're here supporting you. So then we've got our assessments and tracking. Obviously, gaps diagnosis is going to be sort of a real kind of highlight in terms of students returning to schools. Obviously, the tracking systems for that and the assessments that we've got that will provide remedial content. And then obviously 24-hour access. EducationCity does give both teachers and students 24-hour access for the combined curriculum. If you're watching this and you're thinking, hold on a minute, we've not got home access, or actually you're watching this and you're thinking we don't have EducationCity, we'd quite like a trial of EducationCity. Wait until the very end with any other questions that you might have, and I'll give you my email, you can get in touch. Now, again, just before we get started, the account I'm going to be using is a made-up school, so no GDPR being broken if you see the names of any teachers or students. They're all completely made up. It is also an English account, but I will point out any differences that there are if you're watching today from Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, or anywhere else outside of England. Okay, all that said, let's get started. So head over to educationcity.com, and here we are. Now, I'm using the new homepage. It will be the same features if you're on the old homepage, but if you click on the ribbon just there, it will bring you to this page if you want to sort of follow along. Now, I've got a lot to do in very little time, so I have been told I do talk quite quickly. All of our webinars are recorded and they are available to watch on our video user guide just there. There we go. And also on our YouTube page. So if you want to sort of watch again in your own time and go over any areas, you can do that. So starting off with grouping, I'm going to head over to the users area, which is just here, and that little icon. And here we go. And the groups function is at the very end green tab just there. Now you can create groups, as many groups as you can possibly think of, and it can have a combination of children in there for one class, two classes, a mixture of year groups. So really, they're going to be really beneficial in terms of creating those bubbles for your class. Simply add group just there. It will talk you through. Give the group a name. I always suggest popping your initials at the beginning of the group because then they're much easier to identify. So if you can pop your group name, and this might be sort of your year 4 in a mixed bunch of 4, 5s and 6s, or maybe this might be sort of the year 4 in maths, for example. You can obviously create as many groups as you need to, depending upon how you're going to use them and what you need them for. Now, once you've got your group name in, you can search for children via their name. Alternatively, you can actually search by their class name. So you can see here that 4EMG, sorry, is the class. So if I type in 4EMJ, sorry, there we go, and it will bring up with all those students in that one class. So I can then go through and I can select those students that I want in that group. There they are, just there. And you can obviously go through, and if you wanted to, then you could go for, look at year 3, for example, and add those year 3 students in there. So you can have those mixed groups if you need to. Just going to remove a couple of those. There we go, just there. And you can remove children by clicking in the box and clicking onto remove just there. So you can adapt and edit these groups instead of deleting them and starting over again. When you're happy, click on to save, and then those groups are going to become really useful as you're going through. Now I'm just going to head back to the home page using that button in the top left-hand corner and start with the My Cities. Now you can see My Cities are split on the home page in terms of classwork or homework, and you can head into the My Cities via that left-hand column just there. And this is where, if you are part of that subject-specific team and you're doing your planning, you're able to go through and sort of create those plans. As you can see here, I've created one here for World War II as an example. But you can have a look. I've got a couple in homework as an example there. Sort of week beginning the 22nd of the 6th. That might be for a particular subject as an example. But essentially what you need to do once you've got that together, click in the box next to the one that you want to copy. Actions, create a copy. Now, as soon as you do that, it will bring up this page saying, do you want to copy this? I'm just going to, we could call that copy. I'm actually just going to call this Mr. Russell. This is going to Mr. Russell once I've finished it. Leave everything, I'm just going to leave everything the same and click onto OK. Now it will open that up and it will say, do I want to change anything in here? But because I've created that main copy that I'm going to send out to all the staff members, I'm going to leave it up to Mr. Russell to change what he wants. So instead I'm going to just going to make sure that's saved. Maybe type in a message, here's the plan for you, whatever you want to put. Make sure that is saved just there, and then head backwards along that breadcrumb trail just there. So here we are. Now I've actually got too many things in here. You can see now I've got that copy just there for Mr. Russell. I've created 2 copies for Mr. Russell, but that's okay. You can select that copy just there, and then when I head back up to the top, you'll see there's an actions button that will enable you to allocate. Now this is why it's really important that staff members have their own logins, because then it brings up a list of every staff member who has an EducationCity account. You can find Mr. Russell just there and allocate, and it will tell you that that ownership has been transferred successfully just there. So that's really beneficial because it means you can create those subject-specific folders in your groups, popping everything in that you want to put in, and then you can create as many copies as you need to and allocate to every teacher for them to then adapt for their individual groups. Because then if I just go in and log in as Mr. Russell, where is he? There he is here. He's down as Mr. Russell. He said, okay, you can change that. He can then go into this folder, go through, take out anything he doesn't want, move things around if he wants to, get rid of anything. There we go, we can get rid of that if he wants to. So he can then adapt this and then go through the process of assigning this to students. So I'm just going to save those changes just there. So that is really beneficial in terms of the sort of creating an allocation for those teams of staff. Now, you might put in some of the resources that we have. So I'm going to go from this page down the left-hand column just here to our subjects area, just there, sort of identifiable by that little pencil and ruler symbol. Now, these names may appear differently to you when you're logging in, and this area may be different, but it doesn't affect what it is that I'm going to show you, and those are the Learn screens. These are so useful in terms of the instructional videos that we have. And you can open those up. You can see you've got loads of different Learn screens going on there that you can use for different purposes. If I just head back into, I'm going to go to lower key stage 2, Learn screens, there we go. You can open them up, you can see what they summarise. For those of you who haven't used a Learn screen before, they're instructional sort of PowerPoints crossed with videos, and you can have a look at our webinar about the different resources that we have that will tell you a little bit more. So those, and then the activities that we have for the practice essentially. So you have there your instructional videos and your practices straight in front of you, and it will tell you if there's a Learn screen that links with an activity or an activity that links with a Learn screen. Now, don't forget that our activities are marked for you as long as students are logged in. Really important that the students are logging in and completing those activities, because then they do get marked, and then you can start tracking their scores as part of the success tracker. I head back to the home page again. The other thing that is marked for you are our assessments. In case you didn't know, we have got a mixture of assessments for English, maths and science, or literacy, numeracy and science, ranging from year 1 to year 6 or P2 to P7. All of these are marked for you, and some of them will even create an independent revision journal, and this is given to each child based upon the questions that they've gotten wrong. Within that will be remedial content to fill those gaps. So that's an independent way of filling gaps in learning over these sort of 3 to 6 months that the children have been off school. So have a look for those formative assessments, and they will do that for you, enable the children to fill those gaps independently. So as well as that, we have our tracking, and that can be found in our success tracker, which is just here on the home page. If I go into that, you'll be able to see, you can have a look for a term, a half term. I can have a look since the beginning of January, for example. So you can have a look over the 6 months that the students have been off school. It's not 2019, please ignore me. There we go. And you can start tracking what pupils have been doing. And you can see here, this is what the children have been doing in that time frame. It will tell you if it's an assessment or an activity. There we go, there's a couple of activities there. You can filter by the subject just there as well, and we can sort of filter by surname first as an example just there. And you can export this data if you're looking to use it for any reasons, for any reporting purposes. You can export it just there. You can also look for a group or an individual pupil, so you can have a look for those bubble groups that you've created earlier, or again for a specific child if you need to. I'm just going to update that, and you can have a look to see what that child has been doing in the time frame that you suggested. Great thing is that for any activities or assessments, you can click into them, and you can see the questions the children have given along with the answers that they gave. So you can start to build up that picture of the child's gaps. Obviously, activities can be done more than once. So if they've completed that activity maybe a couple of times, you can see here it's been completed again. You can go in, compare those, and maybe print them off a certificate as well. if you're feeling nice and generous. There we go. And the great thing is, for any assessments, you can go in and you can have a look at those, but you can also have a look at that revision journal for those formative assessments that the computer has created. And you can start to get a bit of a picture as to where the gaps lie. You can see commutative law is obviously a bit of an issue just there, vocabulary for multiplication and division going up, and sort of arrays as well. So you can start to build up a bit of an idea of where the gaps lie for that child. I know I've gone really quickly. I've gone so just giving you a bit of an overview of everything, but please do explore those in your own time when you can. And don't forget, you have got that 24-hour access. So make sure the children have got their logins and they can log in at home and do the work that you have set for them. Really important in terms of starting to fill the gaps in their learning. Now, this was a special spotlight webinar based upon that government guidance, but we do have a number of webinars coming up that haven't yet been allocated a theme or title. So if there's anything that you want to see, please let us know. You can get in touch via our email address just there. Along with any questions or queries about today's webinar or anything else, or maybe you're sitting there thinking, oh, I'd really like a trial of Education City, get in touch with us. We'll be able to point you in the right direction and send that request to the right people. If you haven't got your login yet, get in touch with your admin. They will either be your head teacher, deputy head, admin in the office, or your ICT coordinator at home. And if they don't know, obviously you can get in touch with us. I really do hope this has been useful to you. If you've got any questions, obviously let us know. I hope to see you soon. Until then, take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.